Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Howdy, y'all. This is Red Laughlin. We're on the Corner Bookstore today on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Murder, mayhem, mystery, western, romance, lots and lots and lots of categories and lots of series for our new author today. Not a new author. She's an author that's been very experienced in writing for a while. But Ann Charles, please join us.
Hi. Thanks for having me on.
Ann is a USA Today best-selling author, along with many other awards. She's written many books and has series of books. I was preparing for the show, and whoa, wow, that's interesting. Oh, something else. So, anyway, I'm super happy to have you here today. Great smile, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Always good to have that on TV. Anyway, when did you figure out you were really a writer?
It was not until my, mid-20s. I had a lot of things I wanted to do. And even in my mid-20s, I didn't really think, oh, I'm going to be a writer now. I just always loved books, since a kid, reading all the time. And it was in my mid-20s when I was reading a book and I didn't love the ending. It was a good ending. I just wanted more. So I thought, well, if this is, how you feel, why don't you try writing your own ending to what you want, and so I did that. And then that expanded to, why don't you, try writing a book that you would like to read? And it just kept growing to, oh, maybe I should just try writing, books for a living. But at the time I was working many other jobs and toward the end, including a technical writer. So work came first, and then I would come home at night and spend time with the kids. And then after everyone went to bed, I would work on the books and trying to, write story and learn the craft and learn all about marketing. And I kind of had, two jobs there for a while. Full time was writing at night and writing in the day at work.
What did you write in the day at work?
Oh, it was so exciting. It was technical writing for software for banking, I guess, banking software. So, everything about how to use the software to make deposits. I mean, all kinds of banking stuff I didn't even know existed. So it was just riveting. And I used to joke with my boss, because one of the customer service reps would say, hardly anybody reads these books anyway that we do for work. And I said, I think I'm going to start adding, I'm going to kill someone on the page. Maybe I'll insert a sex scene into the tech doc and see if anybody noticed that in the books. And she would be like, don't you dare. Please don't you dare. So she always made sure to read my, books before they went live, the tech docs and the tech books, but we'd have fun with it. So it was quite a different thing than what I wrote at night.
I had a situation once where I wrote something like that just to see if somebody's going to read it. I gave it to my boss, ended up with the Department of Energy. And then I was in a meeting and they say, why did you put this in this? That wasn't supposed to even go to you all. But regardless, I know the feeling you had. Is anybody going to read the thing?
Right. One time with my critique group, we were joking, or we would joke around with different things. And I wrote an ending to the book that wasn't true, and I killed the hero. And I gave it to them to review. And one of them, we're still great friends. She was at the doctor's office when she read that. And she goes, I was so mad. I was like, how could you kill him? You can't kill a hero in a romance. That's not how it works. And I laughed. I said, what it is I just wanted to mess with you and have fun with something else. So we still get a good laugh out of that, me killing the hero and fooling her.
Well, at least you brought him back to life, right? Before the book was
Yeah,
published.
exactly.
I know what you mean about you read a book and you get to the end of it and all of a sudden, well, that's not what I expected. Or in some cases, the author dies and somebody else finishes the book. And normally
Right,
where the author would take 100 pages to wrap up the story and weave everything together in
right,
15 pages, it's done. And uh, what happened? And
right,
you feel
right.
really disappointed because you know that's not the way it should have happened. But yeah, I feel your pain on that one because I've seen that a few times. But uh, anyway, so you got involved and okay, so you have a little bit of romance, you got a little bit of mystery, you got a little bit of horror, you got a little bit of Western, you got, what do you not have?
Oh boy. Well, too much drama. Um, my daughter loves drama shows and TVs and movies, and that's of course there's some drama on the page. You can't not, most books have a little bit, but I'm just that's not my cup of tea. I like the mix of, like you said, supernatural horror, excitement of adventure on the page, just all mixed together. And when I first started, I started trying to write romance, and I just struggled with that because there's a lot of emotion and a lot of, that goes on. Emoting is a big part of the book. And I just kind of would get bored with that just because that's not my style. So I tried that for a few books and then I was like, that's not working. Let's throw a dead body into the mix and see what happens. And then things started getting exciting. Later on, I added adventure, which was a lot of fun, and thought, let's try supernatural and see what happens with some of that. And that really got exciting for me. So I really kind of fell into the multi-genre. Started with one, tried to stay with that. I wasn't going very far with trying to get with publishers at that point. That was early on, and they really wanted you to pick a team and stay with it. Are you going to write mystery? Are you going to write romance? What are you writing here? But once the ebook market, started to grow, that really opened up opportunity for someone like me that mixes them all together, and we're not worried about where they fit on a bookstore shelf so much. We can put them in multiple categories.
You talk about killing a character. I've had a couple books where I had to go back and read the paragraph 3 times. Literally, I'm serious. Did that character actually die?
Yes, really.
It happened so fast. I could not believe it happened. Number one, but number two, I'm through three sentences and that character doesn't exist anymore. And I was emotionally involved in that character up to that point in time, and it just really shook me emotionally because something happened. So when you kill a character, is it spontaneous or is it something that you lead them down the road that there's danger and there's a possibility, or how do you handle killing a character?
I've done a few where you actually knew the character and you went through the book. You may have liked him, you may not have liked him a lot. Um, and I know from my first draft reading crew, when I do it, I don't tell anyone what's coming. I may have an idea, what I'm going to do, but I try to keep it to myself so that I can get the full, reaction from the first draft crew. That's usually 10 to 12 people do that for me. And I do know from them, it's usually pretty shocking. They didn't expect that to happen. And the first time, I had written, like I said, some romances and tried that. And then some of these readers have been with me since the start. And the first time I killed one of the villains, a sub-villain kind of, on the screen, on the page, I think of it as the screen in my head. He was, the reader was just, he goes, I'm shocked. I was just like you. He had to go back and read it a couple times, realizing, you really killed him. I said, yeah, that's not me though. I really didn't. It wasn't me. I'm just the author, but it happened. So I don't do it a ton. I try to make it count. I'm not a John Wick, on the page where I'm killing everybody. And I try to have it has a purpose in the plot, as part of, what's going on. So that's just my style. I have nothing against John Wick in that style. I watch the movies and, try to count how many go down, but that's just not me on the page.
My daughter pointed out in the John Wick movies that the actual number of shots are the actual number of bullets that are available for any particular one, so that when you see him reloading, he's already out. And But a lot of times we see, well, I know that that gun doesn't fire that many bullets, but they're still shooting. So anyway, there's some
Yeah.
interesting things there about the John Wick movies that add a little bit of realism to it that we don't typically see. But
Right.
anyway, so do you know ahead of time you're going to kill a person off in your book when you're writing it, or is it just one of those things that kind of comes as the plot develops?
A lot of times it's as the plot develops. I might have a villain and I know we're gonna, at some point possibly this villain will go away, or I mean like die, go away, or just go away. So I have that in mind. But I when I try to plot a book out, I will actually do a high level skeleton plot line. And then I'll start writing and I'll pretty quickly go right off the plot line. By first turning point, I'm doing something different than what I originally plotted. I always think of that skeleton plot line as just something to build confidence within myself that I can tell the story. That there is a full story here. Let's go now and see what comes out. Sometimes I know, from early on in the story. Other times, as I build and things keep happening, I realize, oh, this will be really effective for what I want, in this particular point in time. If this character, dies or is killed or something, this is going to be part of the mystery for the next book or 2 books away. Because with my Deadwood Mystery series, for example, I always, each book has a plot and it goes through and it's all a story contained. But there are all often starts to another plot line that's going to be in a future book. So, keeping all that in mind as I build the series, and I'm working on book 14 right now. So there's a lot I have to go through when I start outlining a book to just say, what have I left in the previous books that I need to pick up now? And let's wrap this one up. Let's pull this string along further. What do I need to do? So that all comes into play too when it comes to killing someone. And sometimes the book starts with a murder, and that's how the mystery starts, for that particular story.
I mentioned this on a couple other corner bookstores, but there was I think 5 key points Hemingway always makes with his books. And one of the ones that kind of stuck with me was the fact that quit while you know what you want to write. In other words, you get to the end of the chapter, you know how you want to finish the chapter, stop. He says, if you
Right.
finish it, now all of a sudden, you can certainly figure out how you want to link it to the next part, the next chapter, the next paragraph, whatever it may happen to be. But if you come back and you already know the ending, you've had a chance now to think about it, and you don't have it. You just come back and you start because you know where you're at and what you want to do. But if you
Right.
finish everything, you've kind of put a little hiatus in your process of thinking. And I guess I write nonfiction, and so I'm looking at how do I link this particular one to the next one. I could do that easily in nonfiction because I know what I want to do, and usually I
Right.
wrap everything up. I'm done. Okay, now I have to start the next chapter or the next section. And I'm thinking to myself, that ought to be, whether it's a Western, a space fantasy, it doesn't make any difference. That makes a lot of sense from an author's perspective because I can sit down and I know exactly what I want to do. And I've had the chance to let my subconscious brain mold the stuff around and see, is that really what I wanted to do or something else? So, what do you think about that kind of advice?
I think a couple things sprung to mind as you were talking about that. One thing that I think about often is, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to end this chapter? What feels right? And sometimes I'll write a chapter and I end it and I think, that's not quite right. That's not it. I need something more. Maybe I need to cut it sooner. I need to modify that ending a little bit. It does not feel right. And something I've learned over the course of all the books I've written is, for me, this is for me, books are like a roller coaster. Um, you start out sometimes going up the big hill and to do an immediate drop. There's a lot of twists and turns. Sometimes there's loop-de-loops in the thick of it. And you keep that in mind as you go chapter to chapter so that the reader feels like they're on this ride. Now, sometimes if you're doing, all kinds of crazy fast spins and all this stuff that's adrenaline rush, for the reader, there are times you got to slow the pace a little bit and do the slow, roller coasters will slow down sometimes and do a few nice turns and then click 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 up the next hill. So I try to think of a book like that, and chapters as well, flowing throughout the whole thing. You don't want it to be like a jerky ride. You want it to be a full on entertainment thrill ride from start to finish.
What you said is very critical, because I know from a lot of webinars, seminars I've gone to, they don't want you up here the whole time at the top of the roller coaster and turning, because you
Right.
have so much emotional involvement in it, and you never have a chance to kind of come down a little bit and relax and get back into the storyline. And again, you
Right.
don't want to have sorrow and fear or whatever at the bottom. So you do have to have that general roller coaster. And sometimes you're up here a little bit, and then but you do have to have that, because otherwise the reader is burned out
Right.
before they're even a third of the way through the book. And I kind of
Right.
pay
Right.
attention
I
to that.
mean,
I pay attention
yeah.
to that when I'm reading. I'm up here, and especially on some spy thrillers and whatever, they just never seem to get out of the action mode. And here I am 20 pages in, and I'm up here the whole time. So that's a skill that really takes attention to develop and know how is your reader going to respond. And I think that's super important. I commend you on that, because that's a very critical part of the writing.
And to be clear, that's not something I started out of the gate knowing. This is something that as book after book, as you keep trying to improve your craft, you're starting to, this comes really easy, and this comes really easy, like show don't tell comes easy, or transitions come easy. Now you start to step back and go, let's look at the whole structure as I'm writing this. And that, to me, for me, I should say, is something that came with experience, and then came also with each book. What is the theme? How can we play with theme and have it fun, instead of just, yes, my theme is justice. No, how can we have each chapter, each scene have this theme, this premise, this thing we have going on? And I love to sprinkle humor throughout, because I find that whether you're at the height of a thrill or in a sequel where we're really going deep into point of view, humor is a really good bridge for all of that to smooth it through. So that's why there is a lot of humor sprinkled through my books, because number one, I love humor in a story. Number two, I think it helps smooth out the bumps of the ride.
So I assume you kind of like Ryan Reynolds and his little quips of humor.
Yes. Yes. All those actors that have those little bits of humor, I just love it. It can take a great story for me and make it so much more colorful and fun.
You have a couple books over there just behind you. Why don't you pull those up and let's talk about those a minute? You put
Okay.
them on the table?
Yeah, these are the latest two from these two series. I have a Deadwood prequel series that I write with my husband, Sam Lucky. And then this is the main Deadwood contemporary series that I write. And that's the one I'm working on, book 14. We're working on book 7 of this. So they go together, they share a world. They're just separated by time. And what's really fun with having the two like this is that there are characters that are alive in this book that are now, supernatural ghosts in this book. There's characters that are alive in both because they're not human. So we can really play with mixing the two worlds. And if you like them both, I would say, it's exciting for the reader, because you go, oh, there's so and so back then, and here's this, and ooh, who is this now? Did this person, what happened to them? Where are they now? Is this ghost? And it makes it, I think, a richer experience for the whole Deadwood series worlds.
So your dead character is back alive in a new book.
It depends on the character. It depends
Okay.
if they're human, and what they are and what can happen. That's the joy of supernatural. You can play with all that.
So when you wrote the first one, did you envision having two separate, distinct series? Did you expect to write a series of a dozen or more
No,
books?
no, I had none of that. This is the very first in the Deadwood series. I have lots of notes in it from something else I'm working on. But anyway, that book, I wrote that, and I thought maybe a couple, with that series, with the way I ended it. But I didn't ever think that it would go on to 14 and onward. I mean, we're at 14 and there's so much still happening. And I kind of judged by the fans and their reactions, and the fans are still 100% on board. So that is a challenge for me as well as the writer, is to keep putting out a new book in that series, but not making it the same as the past. So you feel like every book is a different ride at the Ann Charles amusement park, right? So I have to figure out new ways to do things differently and make you feel like this feels different. And sometimes, and sometimes it's more humor, sometimes there's more action. I have book 9 in the series that is just action, action, action. And then book 10 slows down. It's Christmas. It's more about the characters, So I just try to keep mixing it up. And like I said, that's a challenge for me as an author. And it helps me to grow because I have to think, how can I do this differently now to keep readers loving the story and feeling like these characters are growing and things are changing.
So how did Sam Lucky get lucky enough to get into your books?
Sam Lucky's been there from the beginning. We've been married a long time, and he was always there, a lot in the background because I'm not good with technology. And long, long ago, when I first started this, I was having trouble with some software, and I was threatening to throw my laptop on the floor and stomp on it. He said, please give me the computer. Let me help you with this. And it, has always just been from right at the beginning. He was he was always the first reader. He would read what I wrote and we would talk about it. He would help me brainstorm a lot of the Deadwood books and what could happen and what could come, along the way. He would read them as I got going. And when I said, oh, I'm such a horrible writer, I don't know how I wrote the last 10 books, he would say, you do this every time. You can do this. You can. So I was writing book 9 in the Deadwood series, and we were watching a show about undertakers in the Old West. And I said, have you ever heard of a woman undertaker? And he goes, no. And we started looking into it and talking about it more. And it just kind of, the Deadwood Undertaker series, was born. But that's historical. There's so much historical accuracy in that series to the time in Deadwood. And so that takes research. You don't want to write it historical and have your history wrong because people will correct you. Readers are smart. They'll tell you what you did wrong. So you want them to be able to enjoy the story without finding all the errors in your history research. And that's where Sam Lucky he loves to research. And he's like, I could do all the research and I could write and we could brainstorm together and then you could come in and we'll kind of do like a duet. And, this series will take a little bit less of your time. And, we could build this whole wonderful prequel history to the Deadwood series. And so that's kind of how it started.
How many miles away is Deadwood in reality?
I think it's about 1,200 miles from where I live currently. My mother and stepfather lived there, and for years. My mom just passed away, and she had been there, I think, 36 years, 37. So I spent a lot of time growing up in Deadwood, spending time back there whenever I could to visit. So before I even started writing the series, I had a good amount of time and real life research living there. Exploring the Black Hills, going into mines, going through the different museums, in the area, all that was there. So it just felt natural to tell this story about the town.
Have you ever encountered any ghosts?
Well, I think so. You never, I'm not a medium. I'm not, I don't think I'm wide open, channel wise as some other people are. I have experienced some really weird stuff. So I think that, yes, there have been ghosts, but I'm more like Violet, the main character in the Deadwood Mystery series. She's, initially a skeptic of the ghosts where everyone else isn't. And as time goes on, she realizes, oh, they are there. I just can't see them like other people can see them. So that's kind of me.
My daughter was a guard at a prison here in Houston early in her career, and she'd be working outside picket. The gun was almost as tall as she was. She's only 4'10". And there was I want to say George is the name of the ghost that everybody knows there. And George loved to play with her blonde hair. And she'd feel somebody pulling on it, turn around, there's no one there. And that went on and on for a while. And then she said one day she was walking inside the prison, it's late at night, and there was all of a sudden somebody's in front of her walking, an inmate.
Ooh.
Walks right straight through the wall.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, I guess prisons are probably a place where ghosts have a home, so to speak. But since you happen to have dead character, or you have supernatural or whatever, I was just kind of curious if that had lent part of your writing to something you experienced.
There's just been so many things throughout my life, and lots of stuff in Deadwood are said to be haunted. I mean, I every other building, you hear about this happens, there's ghosts, there's this, because it's an old town. It's been there for well over a century, um, almost a century and a half. So, of course, there's all kinds of characters, and it's also a town with a lot of violence in the past, because of the gold mining and the early years when everyone's jockeying to get in there and make their money, and people died from starvation, from disease, from all kinds of stuff. You know, gunfights, what have you. So I if there are ghosts out there, I would not doubt that Deadwood is just filled. The streets are filled with them. Can I see them? No, but I know a lot of people that have experienced like what you talked about there. And I always say, I'd like to see a ghost full on, but then I don't think I would because I think that would just really freak me out. So maybe the reason I don't see them is because it's a self-protection thing. So I can
Uh,
keep writing these scary, bits of scare late at night like I do and not freak out.
uh, One of the interviews I looked at doing some research for today's show, question was asked, um, what do you wish you knew earlier that you know now, or something along those lines? In other words, you've written a couple dozen books, you've become successful. What are some of the things that you wish you had known earlier that you could pass on to other authors that are starting their careers now, as to, hey, this is pretty important and I learned a lot from it, or this saved me a lot of time, uh, whatever it may happen to be? Because I also want to get into that word experiment that you've used too. So maybe you want to bring both of those into the answer. But anyway, I thought that was a really good answer to your question. I wanted you to share that with my audience.
Boy, I wish I could remember exactly what I said then.
Well, I was afraid. But you said
It's
you're talking about the experiment of, you do something and it's not that you're failed, but you
mm,
had the mindset that you learned from it and you're able to address things better, faster, easier because of those learning and not failures.
right, experimentation. So I've often felt like I'm a mad scientist in this gig of writing. So much of it, especially with marketing, but also with story, is an experiment of let's try this, let's see how this goes. In the writing world, the experiment of trying different characters, different stories, and different styles of story. Which one, is a bigger hit than which one do people love the most? Did they like the one with more action? Did they like the one with a little bit more characterization where they were, it was more emotional and about the characters rather than the outsiders, the creatures, the what have you. So in story world, you can experiment with that, and I often do, especially with plot and, like I said before, using different themes and trying all that out to see which book is better, which book lands better. And it might not be what I think that I love to write. It might not be that book. It might be another book that I wasn't sure how this was going to go, and it's a big hit. So that is something I'm constantly playing with. And I think as well, that's useful in keeping each story feeling different so that it's not the same formula every time that we go through. Things feel different as you read them to make the whole world feel richer. Because every time you go see your cousins or your sister and their family, what have you, it's usually different. It's not the exact same feel. It's some new crazy thing or some new exciting thing, right? Or some new boring thing, whatever. So that's within the books. And then there's experimenting with marketing and promotion. And that's huge because you can invest your money in so many different ways to market your book these days. It's just overwhelming. And then there's social media on top of it. And where do I put my money? Where do I put my time? And you're going to have to put a lot of time into that part, easily 50% of your time. If unless you have this amazing publicist and who does everything for you, but then you're paying out the nose because a publicist, take money and work, they do a lot of work too for you. But I like to try new things, whether we longtime fans will laugh still about the drunken magnets. And what that was one night I was finishing up a book. I was celebrating. I needed to make some promotional, items for the book with the cover. And I made these magnets with the cover and I put a little line of text at the bottom, and it was grammatically incorrect, but in my inebriated state, I did not realize that. And I ordered 200 and I got them in the mail and I went, oh, do not drink and make promo, pieces. So I had 200 magnets and I said to my readers, this is what I did. Who wants a drunken magnet? And I went through those magnets like boom, gone, because everybody wanted the drunken magnet to laugh with, laugh about with me. So that was an experiment. It taught me, even when I screw up a promotional item, people like it because it's unique. It's not perfect. And that makes me, I think, more real to them. And I am real. I mean, I've had so many wonderful readers write to me, and then I'll write them back and they'll be like, I didn't expect you to write back. You're so kind. You're like a real person. It's like, yeah, what the things life hits me with certainly feel like I'm a real person. Right. So it just lets your readers know you're there. You're just like them. You trip and stumble walking down a perfectly level, hallway. You're the same. And that really builds a relationship type of thing between you and the reader. And what I like to think of as part of relationship marketing. And that's where I'm strongest, is working with people, talking to people, learning about them. I find their lives really interesting, and so just communicating and going back and forth is a lot of fun for me. And that was something I learned as well. I had no idea before I started this that I would like talking to people so much. That makes me sound kind of weird, but I just didn't know that was what I do well. And it kind of fills me back up a lot of times.
I noticed one of the things that you do, I haven't seen it on too many other authors' websites, is that you have a quiz for your books, for your readers. And I
Right.
thought that was kind of neat. So, what kind of response have you gotten back from that? Obviously, you've continued this quiz with other books, so there has to be
Yes.
some level of
Well,
success.
what we did was during COVID, I believe the early days of COVID, um, I started getting online more because I couldn't go do book signings and go see people as well. So with the help of one of my readers and friends, we would come up with questions for each book and do these quizzes and put them out there. And then I would go online and go through the questions and answers. And if you were online with me, you could comment and we would chat. And that way I could kind of interact with people, and still have that feeling of I'm still here, and let's talk about the stories and have fun with them. And so, yeah, those turned out to be a lot of fun. And I'll have people write me and say, oh, I went through and I did a bunch of your quizzes and I had so much fun doing that. So I am always trying to come up with something new and different for each release. For example, one of the things we just did, I don't know if you can see it back here, it's a placemat. See if I can pull out. We did a placemat and it's front and back for the new book release. I can never do this backwards. But anyway, laminated the whole thing just like a placemat, like you'd have, you'd get to see when you're going to a place as a tourist. I have plenty of those around my house because I love to pick those up and use them for my writing desk, to put my cups of water on. So if they spill or, it's just instead of a coaster, I use these placemats. And so we did that, and you could win them if you come to the book signings. I have one in October in Ohio, and I'll have a bunch of those placemats that if you buy a book, you get a placemat for free, and it's all autographed and everything. So I'm always trying to find something new and different. Purple boot behind me, that's a plastic cup with a straw. One year we did those for the fan parties we have in Deadwood and gave everybody who came as part of the door prize a purple boot cup with Ann Charles, on it. So I'm always on the lookout for something new and fun to share with readers.
You had mentioned earlier in one of your interviews that about 50% of your time is writing and about 50% of your time is marketing and other business related things. Is that still about the same?
Yes, unfortunately. I was just saying this morning to my husband, "Oh, I wish all we did was write and tell stories and send them off, and just keep writing and not do the other part." Just because it's not like I said, I enjoy, talking to fans and readers and interacting, but there's something for most creative people that when you're in the zone and you're creating, whether it's art, story, whatever you do, um, it like refreshes your brain. It makes you feel alive. It fills your heart. You just feel so happier, so much happier. Brings you back into harmony, if you will. And it's I just love that feeling. And so that's something I wish, I could be in that more instead of spending a lot of time doing bookkeeping, which is a big part of it too. When the more you grow, the more different costs come into play for all the marketing you're doing, and someone's got to do your bookkeeping. And I do have help. My sister is my bookkeeper, but I have to go through first and tell her all the different things I'm doing so she knows where to put it on the books. But anyway, that always takes up time, and I always do a lot of grumbling during that time online. And my accountant gets a kick out of it too. She'll be like, "Get those books done." Yep.
Is there anything that I should have asked you that you were hoping to tell the world today?
Um, well, not really. I mean, one of the things that's always kind of fun to know in the background is that my brother is the artist that does the illustrations within each book. We have illustrations in almost all the stories, and he also does the cover art. He does the actual pen. I don't know if he's using colored pencils, I guess, on paper art. And we take that art and we scan it in, and then my husband is the graphic artist now, who goes through and builds the cover and puts the whole thing together with my brother's art. So they really work as a team to create these cool covers that are unique. And that was something from the start. I didn't want to use stock art if I didn't have to. I wanted to have some original covers that would look different from, some of the other books out there. And because of my brother and my husband and other graphic artists in the past who also worked with me, that has happened. And I love that because I think it gives our books a look and a feel. And oh, this is Ann Charles, or this is Ann and Sam's book. And it makes it more fun that it's part of the family.
How do people get in touch with you? How do they get your books? Anything going on in the near future you want to share with the world?
AnnCharles.com. That is the easiest way to reach me. You can contact me via email. You can find me on through the contact, I think it's connect actual menu, where it lists all the different places that I'm at online. So that's one of the easiest ways to get through to me. Just start there. And you can also see all the books there, and there's links to where to buy them, and you can read reviews when you go to those links. So that's really the starting point for everything. All these books are ebook, print book, and almost all are audiobooks. We still have one of the newest ones to get on audiobook, but they're out there available. And you can always contact me and ask if you're having trouble getting one, how to get one, and I can lead you to the right place as well. And I also, you see the stack of, it's over here, books behind me. I sell through my online Ann Charles store, and I will personally autograph it and put what you want on there.
Fantastic. Ann, thank you so very much. Ann Charles, ANN Charles, CHARLES.com for our audio audience. And I loved it. I'd love to have you come back. We have so many other questions I would love to have gotten into with social media and marketing and other things, editing and book. Well, you already covered a little bit on the book covers because I had several questions there I wanted to go to because they are kind of unique. But anyway, thank you so very much, and best of luck in continuing to collect awards, and just super thrilled to be able to share some time today with you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me back on, and I'd love to come on and we can talk more about all parts of this crazy business.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Ann, and have a wonderful day, and I will catch you later. Next show on the USA Global TV and Radio Network is called The Wise Ones. Ironically, our guest today, Janet Pollock, was on the Corner Bookstore about 3 weeks ago, and her primary mode of operation is an executive leadership coach. So we're going to be talking more about that today than her book. And then following that, I have a show called Talking Heads, and the heart of health is the topic, and I'm just about ready to wrap that one up. I think this is going to be the penultimate one today. Hopefully next week will be the last one. But anyway, Rattle Laughlin signing off on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, and I will see you in about 16 minutes on the Wise Ones. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye now.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents our partner and sponsor, Mr. Philip Sykes and the British School of Excellence, building confidence, changing lives. And now, proudly presenting the Polished Professional.
On a transformative journey with the British School of Excellence's comprehensive suite of masterclasses, crafted to elevate your professional and personal life. 8 outstanding modules will elevate you to the next level. Module 1, Exploring Life's Purpose, delves into the depths of self-discovery, guiding you to chart your unique path to fulfillment and success. Module 2, Mastering Professional Presence and Confidence. This masterclass is a deep dive into the art of self-assurance and commanding presence, which is essential for standing out in today's competitive landscape. Module 3, Learn the secrets of visual impact, how to curate a personal style that amplifies your professional brand. Module 4, Mastering Professional Etiquette and Communication Excellence, navigating the nuances of corporate interaction with grace and tact. Module 5, Elegance in Eloquence. We impart powerful techniques to captivate and persuade any audience with your oratory skills. Module 6, Unlock the potential of your emotional intelligence, EQ, and harness the ability to connect, empathize, and lead with emotional savvy. Module 7, Mastering DISC, building a gateway to understanding behavioral styles, fostering better personal and professional relationships. Module 8, Mastery in Dining Etiquette, building your confidence to perfect the subtleties of dining with finesse, enhancing your social savviness at any table. Step into the Polished Professional program where poise, elegance, and excellence aren't just taught, they're instilled for life. Join us to redefine your potential and polish your professional edge.
To learn more, go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. The British School of Excellence are investors in people. Let us invest in you.